In 2 Kings chapter 21, the kingdom of Judah enters one of the darkest periods in its history under the reign of King Manasseh. While Hezekiah had trusted the Lord and brought reform to Jerusalem, Manasseh reverses much of what his father had done and leads the nation deeply into sin. Manasseh becomes king at only 12 years old and reigns in Jerusalem for 55 years. Instead of following the ways of the Lord, he imitates the evil practices of the nations that God had driven out before Israel. He rebuilds the high places that Hezekiah had destroyed and sets up altars for Baal. He also makes an Asherah pole, following the example of Ahab, king of Israel. Manasseh worships the stars of heaven and builds altars to them, even inside the temple of the Lord, the very place where God had said his name would remain. The king goes even further. He sacrifices his own son in the fire, practices divination and sorcery, and consults mediums and spiritists. Through these actions, Manasseh leads Judah into greater evil than the nations that had originally lived in the land. Inside the temple, Manasseh places an idol of Asherah, openly defiling the house of the Lord. Though God had promised David and Solomon that Jerusalem would be his chosen place if the people remained faithful, Judah continually turns away. The Lord speaks through his prophets, warning that disaster is coming upon Jerusalem and Judah because of Manasseh's sins. God declares that the coming judgment will be so severe that everyone who hears of it will be shocked. The Lord says he will stretch over Jerusalem the same measuring line used against Samaria and the house of Ahab. Jerusalem will be wiped clean like a dish being washed and turned upside down. The chapter also says that Manasseh sheds so much innocent blood that he fills Jerusalem from one end to the other, adding violence to idolatry. When Manasseh dies, he is buried in the garden of his palace, in the garden of Uzzah, and his son Amon becomes king. But Amon follows the same sinful path as his father. He worships the idols Manasseh served and abandons the Lord completely. Unlike his father later would in other biblical accounts, Amon does not humble himself before God. After ruling only 2 years in Jerusalem, Amon is assassinated by his own officials inside the palace. However, the people of the land strike down the conspirators and place Amon's son Josiah on the throne. This chapter marks a tragic turning point. Judah moves deeper into spiritual corruption, and the warnings of coming judgment become more serious than ever. Yet even in this dark moment, the rise of the young King Josiah hints that the story is not over, and that change may still come. Next comes to Kings chapter 22, where King Josiah discovers the book of the law in the temple, leading to one of the greatest reforms